Hi friends, this video is gonna be about learning foreign languages. Personally, I think that being able to speak multiple languages, and in particular English, has changed my life drastically. It opened a lot of doors for me. It allowed me to feel very comfortable here living in the United States. It allowed me to get a job here, and now that I'm here for a couple of years, I feel fully integrated, mostly thanks to my knowledge of English. So languages overall have changed my life and shaped my thinking. But learning a language, it is not, I guess, something simple. It does take time, and ideally you should also be using effective exercises and practices in order to achieve that fluency that everyone is talking about. And in this video, I wanted to share some small habits that helped me to stay consistent with learning languages and also to become fluent in 2 foreign languages. You've probably already heard by now that learning a language is not a sprint, it's a marathon, meaning that you just can't spend a couple of months learning and then be done with it. Become fluent and then be happy, travel, live in a country where they speak it. Learning a language takes more time and more effort. I don't want you to get discouraged. You can start speaking a language early on. It's just to achieve this level of fluency and comfort, you'll need time. And I think the more you can get exposed to the language, the faster you can learn and the easier it will be for you to listen, to understand when you listen, and to speak to other people. Getting exposed to a language is about building a lot of small habits that will create this touch points, these points of contact with the language that you're learning. It's always easier to take the habits that you already have in your life and just to use them to build up your language skills, which means doing all of those activities but in your target language. For instance, if you're doing yoga, you can, in an application, then you can just go to the settings and change the language of the application to French or English or whatever language that you're learning. Anyways, this video is not about applications. It is about the small habits that I acquired at some point of my life that I think were crucial to me on my language learning journey. And one of them, I'd say the most impactful one, is to listen every day. Listen to radio, podcasts, movies, TV series, just anything that contains the speech in the language that I'm learning. For me, this would be French and English. So every morning when I get up, I know that I'm gonna be cooking my breakfast, which usually takes 10-15 minutes. And while I'm doing this, I like to listen to the French radio. The point is not to get the news, to learn what's going on in the world, which is also fine. But the point is just to get exposed to this speech, to the language itself early in my day. Or when I go on walks, I try to listen to something. If I'm in the mood, I'm gonna be listening to something in English or in French. And the same goes for TV series and movies. I like to watch TV series and movies, but sometimes it does feel like a waste of time. And so I do not feel like I'm procrastinating. Quite often, well, all the time, I actually watch them in English, so I can get exposed to the language once again. And another habit that I got is writing down new vocabulary from movies and TV series. There is something about it that makes it easier to remember. Probably because when you watch something, well, if you like it, you feel invested into the story, so it becomes more emotional. And when something is more emotional, when it has an association, it's easier to remember. When I watch something, I like to have a note in my Apple Notes application for a specific movie or TV series that I'm watching, and I just like to write down new words. Mostly I like to write down sentences or phrases so I can see how the word is used right away, or so I can remember how it was used, because it's not only about the word, but how the word connects to other words to make up a sentence. Of course, it can be a little bit annoying to write down words every time And if you just want to relax and not to do this, it's fine. You can just do it every once in a while, and I promise you it is really useful, and especially if you introduce spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is when you basically just revise certain things over time. It's useful to revise the thing that you just learned maybe in 10 or 20 minutes after you learned about it, and then next day, and then in a couple of days. So to make sure that I do this spaced repetition thing, I like to upload all the words that I wrote down into Quizlet application. There's an alternative, it's Anki application, and I'm pretty sure you can just use it for free. They do have some limitations, but honestly, I've never paid Quizlet or Anki for my word sets that I'm creating in there. And what they do basically, when you upload your set of words, they will create flashcards for you, so you can revise your vocabulary and to make sure that you pay more attention to the words that you maybe already forgot or couldn't remember or could barely remember. When I started learning French, which was my first foreign language, I did not have any opportunities to actually use the language. So I lived in a small city in Moscow region, and I couldn't really afford going abroad and going to school or to even have a tutor to talk to. So I kind of got the habit of talking to myself. Especially when I learn a word, I got into the habit of pronouncing the word a couple of times and also play dialogues in my head. So every time I have a set of words, I try to imagine how I can use these words in a real life setting. This also helps me to determine if the word is kind of first priority for me, if it makes sense, because there are a lot of words, right? There are a lot of different sets of vocabulary, but do you need to know them all? First, it's not possible to know them all, and some words are more important to you based on your areas of interest. So let's say I do software development, and it's interesting for me, and it is likely I'm going to be speaking about this. So it's better to learn this vocabulary as opposed to maybe some other vocabulary related to cooking. I don't like cooking, I don't really want to talk about it. So the vocabulary about my hobbies is always the first priority. So when I have a new set of words, I always try to imagine how I'm going to be using these words, and I kind of play dialogues in my head. So, or when I'm in the shower, I do talk to myself, kind of imagining all those dialogues. And that was something that helped me get to speaking as early as I could, even though I didn't have an opportunity to have a proper conversation with a tutor or a native speaker. Actually, I think I didn't say it right, and I wasn't 100% honest with you. I did have some native friends I could speak French to, but the thing is, we only texted one another, and I rarely talked to them via phone, and it only happened when I already had good level when I was at university. So I did have someone to talk to via messages, and having this communication was something super helpful on my learning journey. First, it allowed me to practice, well, if not speaking, then writing, and overall reading, translation. I did use translator quite a lot at the beginning of this communication, and also it was a nice source of real vocabulary that is used by native speakers, and it gave me a lot of motivation, because after all, I liked talking to the guys because I just liked talking to them, and I had the motivation to learn a language because I had someone I wanted to speak with. I came to the United States with a pretty good level of English. I could speak, I could understand, but when I just came, I realized that I lacked a lot of basic daily vocabulary, like how to say electric outlets or plug in or cauliflower, you know? When I came, I decided that I will start Googling only in English. So every time I have a question or there's something I'm curious about, I will Google in English and read the answers in English, read the articles in English. And I think it helps me to get to grasp an important vocabulary around this topic that I was initially curious about. And this does help me to simplify some of daily activities such as, for instance, grocery shopping. So another thing I started doing is writing my shopping lists in English. So it allows me to research a word ahead of time if I didn't know the word. And it's also useful because when I go into the store, I know that I can always ask for help because I already know the vocabulary that I need to use in case if I want to ask for help of someone who works there. And as for some other daily activities, I find it useful to write all my to-dos in English. It also helps to get these important daily vocabulary that is the most relevant vocabulary personally for you. These are 3 super small things, and sometimes you don't even do them daily. Like if you don't go to grocery stores every day, you're not gonna write grocery shopping list every day. But still, it is just nice activities to sprinkle in and nice opportunities to use and train your language skills. These are the habits that helped me learn foreign languages faster and to stay consistent. Share in the comments what are your habits and what are your tips and tricks. And also remember that this is not about a particular habit, as it is about just staying in touch with language and having something you do with the language on a daily basis. It can be playing a video game in your target language, reading books, watching movies, TV series, or even doing a workout with an instructor who speaks the target language that you're learning. Thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll see you in my next one.